This is a video of how to flash a chimney properly. I get a lot of calls for leaky chimneys, and this is the correct procedure. What you're going to do is cut a new groove in between the bricks for your new flashing to go. You're going to take some ice and water, or some ice shield, and run it up the chimney and then down over the last shingle, so that any water that makes it through will go onto the existing roof. You're going to cut a relief cut. That's at a 45-degree angle right at the corner, just 3/4 of an inch above the corner, slightly above. And then you're going to wrap that around, and you see how it's sticking onto the top of that shingle. That's exactly what we want. We want it to come up with no seams. Here's the side. So this is the next piece that would go on. You would do a relief cut there, and then you would wrap those. So you're always starting from the bottom, working your way up. That's always how roofing is done. That's always how flashing is done. And you'll always start with this ice shield layer, at least in Rochester anyway. Yes, you can see how that's wrapped around, and water can flow. If it does get behind there, it can flow out onto the roof. And ideally you do this with those existing shingles, how they are right now underneath. And this is what it looks like when it's all done. We've added a little cricket back there, and this whole thing was leaking on both the upper and the lower. So we ended up having to reflash both of them for a client. So this guy had buckets full of water coming in. So with this procedure, this will not leak. Now that you've got your ice and water shield, your ice shield down, you're going to go ahead and put the shingles and the step flashing on. This is skipped sometimes. I'm not sure why people skip this step, but you want that water to flow onto those shingles and out. So you need to have step flashing going all the way up the chimney. So you'll go ahead and do that. You'll add one shingle and one piece of step flashing above that shingle. That step flashing should come down as low as you can without it being seen. You shouldn't see step flashing ever. And just like I'm doing it here, each piece overlaps the next piece, so that water will flow down in there and onto the shingle below it, and then down the roof into the gutter. This is the correct way to do step flashing. You're going to add that all the way up. Each piece gets its own, and I put one nail in there right on the nail line of the shingle. You want to nail as little as possible to keep water out. So then you're going to go ahead and cut your groove up there on the chimney, and I'm going to show you exactly what you're going to do with the metal. So the first step with your metal is you're going to bend a hem. A hem is just to finish off the bottom so that it's not like a jagged edge, but it's a nice trimmed edge, and it also provides some strength for the metal, because sometimes you put it up there and it's wavy and has gaps, and this looks really bad. So the hem helps reduce that. Go ahead and figure out how high you need your flashing to be, and then you're also going to do a little bit of a skirting on the bottom piece. So a skirting is more at an angle. In this particular case, it's about a 45-degree angle, so you're going to see me do a 45-degree bend right here, and then this will be my first piece of flashing that goes in the bottom of the chimney, and that will cover that edge, that shingle that I just installed. Then you're going to go ahead and bend for the top, which is going to be a 90-degree bend, but I go a little less than 90 degrees just to give it some tension. So you see there, it's more like 80 degrees, and this is very helpful to get it all to fit tight together, and that's what you want. You don't want your flashing to be sticking out or ugly, or let water get in there. So you're going to go ahead and cut your metal. Here I cut it about an inch after that 80-degree bend. I cut it about an inch, and then I do another bend so that if water gets into that corner there, it will have something to hit and come back out. So I do another little bend here. I'll show you that. If you just do this L bend right here, it doesn't really stick in very well. It doesn't hold into the chimney very well. So adding this extra bend right here really gives it a chance to lock in there, and if water does make it into that channel, it doesn't make it into your chimney. So you see how there's an extra bend right there. So you take this, and there's your skirting right there, how it covered the top of that shingle. You see how clean and neat that looks. It's covering everything in there it's supposed to cover, and it provides a good seal against the weather. And if something makes it back in there with wind-driven rain or ice, then it's going to hit that ice shield that you have, and that'll take care of that. This is what happens when you don't bend a hem. It kind of looks, ugly, and this hem looks very straight and professional, and that's the way you want to leave it. And then this is what it should look like when you insert it into your groove. It really locks in there well. You hit that with an angle grinder to open that up, and this is what the top of your flashing should look like. Now, when you get that piece on there, you're going to go ahead and modify the sides. So you're going to run it long, run it 2-3 inches long on each side, and then cut off the excess. The bottom would be cut at an angle, and then you're going to just fold it over. Again, it's kind of the similar step of the ice shield. You're always starting at the bottom and you're working your way up, and you're always folding over so that water does get into that seam right there, and it will be, it will exit down the side and onto the shingles and down into the gutter. So this is the proper way to do this. I've seen this done so many times improperly, and you're just asking for trouble. So anyway, here's your step flashing going up the sidewall. You got your bottom piece of counter flashing, which is what this big metal right here is called, counter flashing. And you're going to go ahead and run that long, also another 2 or 3 inches long. And I'm going to hem that edge there on the right and fold it over. And it's already hemmed on the bottom there. I've already marked my line, and I know I'm going to do a 2-inch fold over, and there it is right there. See how it's folded over? That's a very neat, clean appearance. I mean, this is no water is going to get in there, and if a little bit does get in that crack there in that seam, then it's going to go right down the roof shingles and into the gutter like it's supposed to.